Being a psychologist and a life coach is the best spectator sport in the world. Maybe you've wondered, what would it take to become a life coach? I'm Dr. Paul. We're talking about that today at Live on Purpose TV. Common question that comes up for me, Dr. Paul, how do I get myself in a position to do what you're doing? I'm not even sure what they mean by that. Do they mean they want to become a psychologist? Because if you want to do that, you get to go to school for a long time. There's 4 years of undergraduate, and then there's a doctoral program. Whether you go to a master's program before that or not is kind of variable. I didn't. I went straight into a PhD program. That means I went through the 21st grade. That's how my kids understood it back in the day. That's a lot of school. Is that what you want to do? Because if you want to become a psychologist, that's what it takes. You get to go through a doctoral program. That's usually not what people mean, because they see that what I'm doing is not really psychotherapy, and it's not. I used to practice psychotherapy. I had a traditional psychotherapy practice for about 12 years. And I would bring in my clients and I would give them a diagnosis. We'd work through a treatment plan, bill the insurance company. At some point when I made a transition in my practice, and just to give you the context about this, I was busy in my traditional psychotherapy practice. I was seeing mostly children, adolescents, parents, families, kind of a family psychology approach. And I was busy. I was booked out solid for 5 months. You couldn't even get an appointment with me in about 5 months. That's how busy I was. And I had negative cash flow. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some of that had to do with practicing in a model that wasn't conducive to the way that I really see people. I made a big change over to positive psychology, and instead of doing therapy, now what I do is coaching. That's one word for it. I think of it as positive psychology counseling and mentoring. I'm a coach, basically, a personal development life coach. And that's usually what people are asking me about, because they don't want to go to school to become a shrink. But they do want to be in a position to coach people and make a meaningful difference in their life from a standpoint of personal development and positive psychology, not from a therapy standpoint. And there's a difference between coaching and therapy. We'll handle that in a different video. How do you become a life coach? How do you get to the place where you can have clientele that actually pay you money to guide them through processes that are going to improve their life? Not as a therapist, but as a personal development life coach consultant. Well, there's a process that you get to go through. This isn't quite like going to school and getting a doctoral degree, but there are some very important considerations. The first one, I think back to my friend Ty Bennett. He's one of my speaking colleagues here in the NSA Mountain West chapter. He's a past president of our chapter and an amazing leadership speaker and trainer. And I remember Ty telling a story about a woman who had confronted him once. Now he's younger and doesn't appear to have a lot of life experience when you first meet him. What people don't understand is that he's coming from a background of some powerful business experience. Ty is a high-demand speaker and trainer. He's the author of books like The Power of Influence and The Power of Storytelling. This guy knows what he's talking about. Anyway, Ty was being challenged by a woman who is actually a CEO of a company who might become one of his clients someday. And she asked him, "Are you traveling for business or pleasure?" He's like, "Well, I'm traveling for business." "Oh, what do you do?" "I'm a speaker." And then her question, something like this: why would anyone hire you to speak? Why would anyone listen to you? Now, Ty is a very good-natured person who didn't take any offense at this. In fact, he had some fun with it. He said, "Because I'm awesome, because I'm amazing, because I can change your life," right? I love that confidence. This is a question we all have to answer. Why would anyone hire you to be their life coach? Now, until you have an answer to that, they don't have any reason to have an answer to that. Does that make sense to you? You got to answer that. Why would they listen to you? Now, there's a pitfall that we often run into at this point, because when that question comes up, it's easy to go to a space of, oh, they wouldn't listen to me. I'm just not, I don't have. No, I don't want that to be the effect of the question. It's a serious question, and there is a good answer to it because you have some life experience that has taught you principles that will make a difference for other people if we can get them out of your head and into their hands, okay? You've got something to offer. Get clear about what it is. And it doesn't have to be the same thing that Ty Bennett has to offer. It doesn't have to be the same thing that Dr. Paul has to offer. It has to be what you personally and specifically can offer that will create value in their life. Now, it's not always easy to discover that. So you might want to get some of your own coaching and mentoring to hone in on that question. I have paid thousands, maybe tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars for my own coaching and personal development over the course of my career. It's an absolutely essential step. Hire a coach or a mentor who can help to walk you through the process, which in turn puts you in position to do that for other people. Probably of equal importance is next to get clear about who your audience is. And if you think that your clientele, your audience, is everybody on the planet, then you don't have an audience yet. You need to be more specific about who it is. Now think of it this way for just a minute. The only reason anyone would ever hire you is because you solve or help them to solve some unresolved problem. What are the unresolved problems that you have the ability to solve? And then ask the next question. Who has those problems? Who has those problems? One area of expertise that I have comes from my experience in clinical psychology when I got to be a custody evaluator for the court. Some of the videos that I've put up about child custody have gotten more views than any of the others. Why? Because there are people who have that problem, and that's a problem that I can help them to solve. That's how they became my audience. Now, I don't practice in that area much anymore, but because of my expertise and experience, I still have something to offer them, and that's why I created the videos. Who has the unresolvable problems that you can uniquely solve? That's your audience. So getting clear about who your audience is next. Right on its heels is understanding that this is about them. It's not about you. Coaches who go into this feeling like it's all about them and they want the prestige and they want the fame and they want all of the sense of importance that they get from being a life coach. No, we're missing the mark. It's not about you. It's about the people whose lives are enhanced and changed and blessed because you showed up with your unique solution to their unresolvable problem. It's not about you. It's about them. You get clear about that, and this is going to be a whole lot easier to set up. Now let me hit a few practical things. And obviously in a short YouTube video, we're not going to get to all of the ways that you can create a coaching practice. Let's create some possibilities in your mind, and then you'll know what to follow up on. I think it's important for you to associate, to set up relationships or mastermind groups or associations with people who understand what it is that you're trying to do and can support you in your mission. Join a group or an association. There's lots of coaching associations out there. I belong to the National Speakers Association, and while that is not necessarily a coaching organization, a lot of the professional speakers that you'll hear giving the keynote at the association meeting or at the convention also offer coaching services. And so I've found an enormous amount of value associating with people like Ty Bennett that I referred to earlier in the Power of Influence, who get what I'm trying to do, and they can provide support and encouragement for me to do that. I also get a lot of good training that way. But find your group, whatever your group is that is going to support this endeavor. That kind of goes along with making sure that you have appropriate training. There are groups that credential or license coaches, and they typically have content that you can also use as you do that. I'm offering a course like that, and I'm not here to sell you that course, but understand that there are things like that that are available to you that can give you both content and training so that you can raise your level of expertise in delivery of those principles. That brings me to the next point. Teach principles rather than giving advice. I get paid to give people advice. That's what they want from me. And I still avoid giving advice unless I'm really clear about what the potential consequences of that advice could be. I would encourage you to refrain from giving advice and instead turn your focus toward the teaching and sharing of principles, because principles determine all of life's outcomes. And as people understand those principles, then they can find an appropriate application for those principles in their own life. So rather than advice, lean toward principles. One final thought: if you're considering going into business as a life coach, you want to make sure that you continually practice within the boundaries. Okay, to stay in bounds, as they say in the sporting analogy, meaning you have a specific set of experiences, expertise, qualifications, knowledge. This is what you're offering to the equation. Please stay in bounds. In other words, if you don't have expertise in that area, that's probably not a good place for you to offer some coaching. Keep it limited to whatever it is that you particularly have some expertise and skills, and practice within those bounds. There are some other boundaries you need to be aware of. I was talking earlier about how when people say they want to do what I do, they usually don't mean they want to become a psychologist. Some do, and that's fine. Psychologist is a licensed title, meaning you cannot call yourself that unless you are licensed, typically by a state agency. In the state of Utah, it's the Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing for the state of Utah. The word psychologist is a licensed title. You can't call yourself that unless you have met the qualifications for licensure. Coaching is very different from that. There is not a specific licensed title for coach. There are organizations who will certify and train coaches, but it's not a legal issue. Do you see what I'm saying? So having a coaching practice is not something that requires you to have a license with the state. Make sure that whatever you are practicing does not violate the licensing laws of the state where you are, state or country. I know we have viewers all over the place. Make sure that whatever you're doing is consistent with the state or local laws where you live. I say this as a friendly warning because I know people who have been arrested or prosecuted for practicing without a license. Practicing what? Well, if it's medicine or psychology or social work or other licensed professions, you're going to run into that possible problem. So make sure that whatever you're doing is consistent with those laws and organizations. Coaching is an amazing opportunity to interact with people and to have an experience that is so rich. I think of my practice as the best spectator sport in the world because I get to observe people's lives and see the amazing things that they're accomplishing. And it's just so fulfilling to know that I might have some small part in helping them to have a greater life. It's a neat thing to do, and there are a lot of opportunities as long as you approach it in a way that allows you to do it consistent with principle and in a way that's going to bless your life and the lives of other people. Life coaching, fun activity. Did that give you some ideas about what you could do to move forward with your goals? I hope that it did. Stay tuned. We'll give you some more tools to become a life coach as we move forward with Live on Purpose TV together.